It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today we're going to talk about setting up your own Turn server. Now, if you're not sure what this is or why you might want it, it's actually a very useful thing to have whenever we're in the world of WebRTC, so web real-time communication. When you want to communicate with people, but they're behind maybe a business level NAT or even a home level NAT, so that network address translation inside of that local network at home behind a firewall and behind their ISP, a lot of times you can't get a direct peer-to-peer connection easily for WebRTC, and what helps mitigate that is a stun server or a turn server. So for instance, when we did Matrix setup about a week ago, one of the things that you can do is make audio and video calls through Matrix, but you need a turn server set up. Now there are a few free turn servers out there that you can use, but they're going to be rate limited. They're going to have some other things because they do have paid plans as well. So it may not be the best idea depending on how busy your server is. The other thing I really like, of course, is self-hosting and open source. So being able to run my own turn server just really appeals to me. The one thing that we want to do is you need to understand a couple of things. If you put a turn server inside of your own network, you have to open a lot of ports on your firewall, and it's just not a great idea to do that. Now you could set up some tunneling with WireGuard, something like that, to maybe mitigate that, but it's a little bit more complicated, so I would highly recommend using a VPS like DigitalOcean or Zaro, which is another one that I've come across recently. They reached out to me. They're very, very kind, very nice. They've got a really nice setup. I haven't gotten to test any of their servers yet, but I think it's really cool that they've got this set up and they're using a lot of open source tech to really start running this business, which is amazing. So that really excites me as well. Right now they're in the UK, primarily Europe and Western Europe there, but it is a really cool option. And for those of us in other countries who might be wanting a VPS in a different country for VPN purposes or things like that, could be a really valid option. At any rate, you're going to want something like a VPS to run this on. So it's very important that you have that ready to go. You could use DigitalOcean. So I'll say this now. In my description below the video, I've got an affiliate link for DigitalOcean. If you click that link and you go sign up using that link, it will give you a credit. I think it's 60-day credit. It's $50 to $100 of credit for usage of their different server sizes. The one we're going to use is going to be a $4 server. So you could spin up a lot of $4 servers for that $50 credit to test things out. If you like the service, if you like what they have to offer, if you like getting that public IP address and being able to route your traffic to your own domain, and you stay with them, then I will get a credit. If you don't stay with them, I get nothing. So just understand that. If you use my affiliate link, I get a credit. If you stay with them, you get a credit regardless. So that's really awesome. And if you don't stay with them, that's fine. It's no skin off my nose. I pay for my service every month, and if I get credits, that helps cover it. That's awesome. But if I don't, it's fine. That said, there are other VPS providers out there. There is Linode, there's Vultr, there's Hertzner. There's just so many different ones. And depending on where you are in the world, it may make more sense to go with one of those other ones. The only one I don't ever recommend is AWS, and it's just because I don't know enough about AWS and how to run things at AWS, and then people send me questions saying, hey, I've got an AWS server and I don't know why it's not working, and I really just can't help you. Other VPS providers work very much the same as DigitalOcean, so it's a little bit easier for me to help you out. Really and truly, just go out there and sign up for the one that makes the most sense for you. I'm going to use DigitalOcean today, so we're just going to log into that, and we're going to use that to get Coturn set up, and then I'll show you how to set up what you need inside of the Coturn configuration. And then we'll jump over and we'll actually set up a matrix configuration as well so that you can see how that functions with the Coturn server. We're going to get into it right after this. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers and all of my patrons over at Patreon. Seriously, you guys make this so worth it for me to do these videos every week. I really, truly enjoy it, and I just can't say thank you enough. If you're enjoying these videos, subscribe. Let YouTube know that I'm doing a good job by subscribing to the channel. Plus, you'll get notified when I have new videos coming out. And finally, if you're enjoying what I'm doing, give it a like. Just click on that thumbs up, and that way YouTube knows that you like it, and they'll pass it along to other people that might enjoy my content as well. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. Let's get started. So right here in DigitalOcean, I'm just going to go over here to this little button up at the top, and I'm going to say create and a droplet. And droplets are what they call their virtual private servers. It's just because they call themselves DigitalOcean, so it's a droplet in the ocean. Now, for where you live, you may want to pick a server that is geographically close to you. I am dead in the center from east to west of the United States, so New York or San Francisco really doesn't make a difference for me. I could probably even go with like Canada, but just pick one that's geographically close to you, and that's going to give you the best performance as far as bandwidth and latency. So San Francisco is fine. I'm just going to stay with that one. San Francisco Database 3, that's fine. We'll continue down here, and we're just going to spin up, I believe, let's just do a Debian server for this, and we're going to go with Debian 12. That's the latest version, so nothing wrong with using that one. As we go down, we're going to make sure we're on the basic setup here, and we're going to click over here on this little bit smaller server size, and we're going to jump down over here to the left to the $4 server for now. That's all we really need for this. I'm not going to have a ton of traffic to this. This is my personal server. I'm not expecting to have thousands of calls at a time. I'm not expecting to have 2 calls at a time at any great rate. So this should be perfectly fine. Now, if you're expecting a lot more traffic on the servers you're setting up, you definitely might want to set up something a little bit bigger. You could jump up to the $6 or the $12 a month. It's up to you. The nice thing is, if you spin this up and you keep it up for a few days and then you tear it down, they charge you by the hour or by the minute. So they break this down to what it costs per minute, and it's, you know, tenths of a penny US per minute. So it's really, really awesome that you can do that and kind of spin that up and spin it down. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to give this actually some keys, and I'm going to give it this one. I think I just need these keys here actually. So that should be good. This is just for me to log in. This is using SSH keys. If you don't have SSH keys set up, I highly recommend you generate some SSH keys. There's tons of tutorials out there. It takes you about 2 minutes. And then use those to log in. As just so much more secure than a password. But if you don't want to do that, you can set up a password as well. Just click on the password option and then set that up instead. As we move down, I'm just going to give this a name that makes sense for the site that it's going to be. So I'm just going to call this myturn.fixitdelrio.com. Now, you want to have access to a domain name most likely so that you can set this up. You'll want to have a domain name like this, and you want to have a domain name that you own so you can set up the A record for it. All right, so that it will point to your VPS when it's time. You can set your tags if you want to, but we're good. I'm going to hit create this droplet. It's going to go out and start creating that thing. And then in the meantime, we can do a little bit of setup here. So I can show you a couple of things. I can't show you for every single host how to set up your A records, but I can show you how I do it on my system. So I can go to box.fixitdelrio.com/admin here. Okay, that took for ridiculous ever to load, but I'll log in with my admin credentials here. And the first thing we're going to do is go over here to this, and we're going to go to custom DNS. And right here, I can add an A record for something like this that I want. So you can see I got a bunch of them down here. They're pointing to different places. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to call this my turn. And it's already got the .fixitdelrio.com. It's an A record. And then I'm going to put in the IP address that I get from DigitalOcean when it's done creating this server. All right, it's finished. So I'm just going to copy this IP address. I'm going to go back in here and I'm just going to paste that in right there. And I'm going to hit save. This is going to save it. It's going to give me a little message saying, hey, we created it. It's going to take probably 10 minutes or so for it to start resolving, but that should be set. So we've kind of done parts 1 and 2. Now we're going to take that same IP address and we're going to open up our terminal emulator here. And I'm going to go right here and enlarge it a little bit. And we're going to SSH root at and just use that IP address. And that should use my keys. So we're going to say yes. It's going to check. Everything's good and I'm logged in. So that's the nice thing about SSH keys there. So the first thing we want to do is update this server. So apt update, 2 ampersands, apt upgrade -y. This can take very little time. It can take a long time. It depends on how new the distro is and how updated the image is, but just be patient, let it run through what it does, just to make sure all the packages are up to date and everything as secure as it can be, and then we'll get to the next part. All right, now that it's done, let's just reboot this thing real quick. It only takes about 15 or 20 seconds for a DigitalOcean server to reboot, so that's a really nice thing again about these VPSs. They have very fast reboot times, very fast drives, really great RAM, everything like that. So I really like these things. We can just hit the up arrow on the keyboard here, and we'll clear this out actually, and hit the up arrow. And we're just going to log right back in. It's not ready yet. We can try it again here in just a minute. There we go. Now we're logged right back in. I was about 2 seconds too soon, that's all. So we're just gonna go here and we need to create a non-root user that has sudo privileges. This is very important that you don't run things as root, especially things in production. It's very key that you don't do that. So we're gonna do add user, and then Brian is my name. So I'm gonna put that, you would put your name. And then it's gonna ask you for a password. So put in a nice strong password for your user and then repeat it. And then fill in this information if you feel like it, but it's not required. At the end, just hit Y and hit enter. And we've created a user called Brian, and they've added me to the group called users. Now I want to be in the group called sudo as well, so I need to get myself added to the sudo group. So I'm going to do user. All right, my internet provider just dropped out for some reason, so I had to fix that problem, but everything looks like it's back up and running. So the last thing we're going to do was change our user to a sudo user. So we're going to do user mod hyphen little a capital G sudo is the name of the group, and then we're going to add our user. So in my case, Brian, you would put in your username. That's done. Now there's one more thing we have to do because I set this up to use SSH keys and I have not set them up to use it as Brian. I need to move the SSH keys over and then set them to be mine. Now normally if you had the ability to log in with a password, you could just SSH copy ID your keys up, but then you have password turned on, you have to go into the config and turn it off. It's just something I don't want to deal with right now, so we're just going to do it this way. So we're going to do cp-r, which means copy everything inside of this folder, //ssh, and we're going to copy that to /home/Brian/ just like that. And then we're going to chmod -r, or actually we're going to do chown, I'm sorry, chown. We're going to change the owner, and then hyphen capital R, which is again everything inside of the folder, /home/Brian, and we need to put in who owns it. So we're going to put Brian and then :Brian. So this means change the ownership and change everything inside of the folder that I tell you. Change the owner Brian to Brian. Change the owner group also to Brian. So I have a user named Brian and a group named Brian, and I want to own it. And I'm going to put everything that's in my home folder is mine. So we're going to hit enter, and that's done. And now if we exit, we can do SSH again, except this time I should be able to use Brian, and I bet we can use our URL instead of the IP address, because remember we created that pointer to our using our A record. So we'll do myturn.fixitdelrio.com, and yes, and we are logged in, and you can see now that I'm logged in as Brian, which I have sudo privileges, but I am not the root user, so that's great. So we'll clear that out, and the first thing we want to do is actually install Coturn. So we're going to do sudo apt install, and then Coturn, Coturn, space -y, which just means yes, don't prompt me if I want to install it. And then we'll put in our sudo password. It's going to go out there and get Coturn and install it for us, and it just takes a few seconds. As you can see, it's very fast. So Coturn is installed. There's a service that also gets created and should be started, but we can check it just to make sure. So we say sudo systemctl, and then we're going to say status and then Coturn. Let me make sure I type that right. There we go. And it'll show us right here. It is active, which is great. The problem is it's active, but it's not configured yet. So it's telling us, hey, I'm looking at this turnserver.conf file, and yeah, it's just not helping me. So we're going to just clear this out, and we're going to go and actually edit that conf file. So we're going to do sudo, and I use nano. Now you can use Vi, Vim, whatever you like for a text editor, but I use nano. So I'm going to do nano/etc/turnserver.conf, and it's going to open up this file for us in the editor of your choice, of course. And we're going to start going through this to figure out what do we need to change and what things are really important. So the first thing is the listening device. So you want to make sure you get in the right information for the listening device name. So in this case, it defaults to ETH0, but it's commented out. So anything with this little plus, this little number sign, the hashtag, #, whatever you like to call it, in front of it is a comment. That means that Coturn ignores that as it reads this configuration file. Since we don't want this to be ignored, we're going to remove it. We're going to remove the little hashtag, and now it says listening device equals ETH0. We're going to hit Control-O to save, and we're going to just exit, and I'll show you how to find out what your listening device is called. So we're going to do IP-BR-CA, and you'll see right here, I've got my IP address. So I'm going to copy this because it's going to be useful here in just a little bit, but this is my public IP address. So I'm going to copy that. And I can see it's on ETH0. Yours might say something like ENS18 or some other letter combination. What you want to do is you want to copy that and put it there for that listening interface. And so we'll just go right back into there. And you can see right here. So the listening device, you want to make sure you put down the right listening device. As we move down, listening port 3478 is fine. We'll just uncomment that. That's great. And then the turn listener port for TLS, again, we'll uncomment this, so it'll be set as 5349 there. We're going to continue down, and we've got this alternate listening port. We don't need to undo that. It's fine. The alternate TLS listening port we also don't need to do. And then we've got this TCP proxy port. We don't have to undo that one either, so we can leave those commented out. But right here where it says listening IP, you can see there's 3 of them, and none of them are our public IP address. So what we want to do is we just actually want to add a line right here below it, and we're going to type listening-IP equals, and we're going to paste in that public IP address that we got when we copied it earlier. So that's where we want it to be listening. We want it to be listening on that public IP address. Now, if you're doing something where you're port forwarding and you've got it on a private network, you would want to put in one of these private addresses. I'm not doing that. I'm not proxying any traffic or anything. I'm just going straight to this VPS for the Coturn server. As we continue down, they've got a few more things that we're going to have to set. So right here on this auxiliary server, I don't have an auxiliary server. This is it. So we don't need to do anything with the auxiliary server information. As we continue down, I'll kind of scroll this and then we'll talk about it. The UDP self-balance, I don't think there's anything you need to uncomment. It should be fine as it is. Relay device, again, we don't need a relay device. We're using ETH0. We've got it set already. We'll come on down. The relay IP we also don't need, so we can just skip over that section. If you're using Amazon EC2, there is information in these comments that should help you get things set the way that you need to have them set. Again, I don't use Amazon AWS services, so I don't know that much about it. But apparently they've got a special section just for you guys so you can get things set up the way that you need them to be set. So if you don't have Amazon, if you're not using them, just skip past that part as well. The relay threads, again, 0, we can just leave that commented out. But right here, the min port, we're going to uncomment, and the max port, we're going to uncomment. Now, again, if you're trying to run this from a home server and you're port forwarding, you need to make note of these port numbers. And you need to create a port forwarding rule for the entire range between these two numbers. So you can change these numbers. You can change these to 10,000 through 20,000. You can change these to 10,000 to 10,500. It is up to you what you set. They're just setting these as a default, but you can change the numbers if you don't want to have this many ports open on your home firewall. I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't be setting this up on my home system anyways, but if you're doing that, just be aware you need to set that up as well. As we go down, you've got this logging. It's got verbose settings, and there's 2 different ones. So you've got this one that says in normal mode. So it'll be verbose. It'll give you a lot of information, but it's just the normal moderate information. You've also got this one that's really going to give you like a ton of information extra. So if you set that, if you uncomment this verbose, it's going to give you a ton of logging. It may be more than what you know what to do with. And if you're just trying to find something that may be simple, you might want to try this one first. And if you have to move to this one to figure out what's wrong, you could uncomment this one. But make sure not to uncomment both, one or the other, not both. Let's see. Here we go. So fingerprint in the turn messages, I don't personally want that. It's up to you if you want that. On this one here, we need to understand a couple of things. This LT credential match, so cred match. So what you're going to do is this LT cred match. If you want to use a username and password, you need to uncomment this. And then right below this, you need to actually add the user and then a colon and the username you want, and then the password. So it's kind of a string of 2 things. It's not just one thing. So let me show you what this looks like. So for the user, you're going to type it just like this, except you're going to put an equal sign, not a colon. Sorry about that. You're going to put an equal sign, and then you're going to put in the username that you want. This should just be some uncommon username, to be honest with you. Just put anything you want, but you could put my turn server user, something like that. Then put a colon, and then you want to put a really long, strong mix of characters, uppercase, lowercase, and numbers. So something like this. And maybe not this one here, just because it might be treated like a special character. And you should be set. So something like this that people aren't going to crack. This would be your username and password combination for accessing your turn server. So this is how you secure your turn server. This is one way. The other way is to use a shared secret. And I prefer that one myself. And it's kind of already set up inside of Matrix. It's set up inside of Nextcloud Talk to use that. It's set up in a lot of places to use that versus the usernames and colon password kind of style. So just be aware. When you do this, The stuff before the colon is your username, and the stuff after your colon is the password. So just be aware that that's what you're setting up when you do this. You can set this up and just leave it, and if you don't want to use it, just use the hashtag again to comment it out, and then comment out that line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the shared secret down here. So we're going to go down and leave no auth commented out. It's fine. We don't want to have no auth. We just don't want to use the shared, the LT cred match as it is there. So we're going to go down past this section right here, and you're going to see all of this information where it's showing you about user and password and how to set things up. Just keep going down, and we're going to get down to this one that says use auth secret. That we're going to uncomment. So I'm going to scroll up just a little bit to make it easier for you guys to see. But this line right here, use auth secret, we're going to uncomment. Okay. Once you've uncommented that, you're just going to keep going down. Let's see. Right here, we're going to go down, and you see this part that says static auth secret, and it just has the word north. That's the secret. We don't want to use that. We want to use something much stronger. So again, a really nice long list of words that don't have anything to do with each other, or a bunch of numbers and letters that are uppercase, lowercase, and numbers mixed together. Whatever you want to put that's long and strong is great. So if you said, I'm going to put creed dash onomatopoeia. I'm probably spelling that completely wrong, but who cares? If I didn't spell it right, maybe the bad guys can't guess it either. And then you add, I don't know, baseball. And dash 20 or 11, 12. Here, I can type and talk at the same time. There we go. So we've got a nice long strong password. That's great. So that's our user auth secret. We're going to continue down. So the server name we do need to put. Oh no, this is OAuth server name, so we don't need this. So for the OAuth server name, unless you're going to use OAuth and you know how to set that up, that is completely up to you. I am not going to get into it. I will be covering some OAuth stuff later on, but I'm still learning about it. I'm just not confident enough to give you guys any kind of lesson in it right now. So we're going to just continue down. As we continue down, there's SQLite database information. You can turn this on if you want to. So the default file name is /var/db/turndb, and you can change that if you want to. I would just leave this commented out. I'm sure it does it on its own anyways. Again, if you want to use PostgreSQL, you can. If you want to use MySQL, you have that option as well. So you'll see a bunch of different options. There's MongoDB, Redis, continuing down, just, yeah, lots of information and lots of things you can set up for databases. Very much up to you how you do that. If you have a realm for your company, you may need to set that up as well. Again, we're going to skip over most of this stuff. We're just trying to get this thing up and running. So the user quota. So per user allocation quota. If you want to set this, you can. Default value is 0, which means no quota. Unlimited number of sessions per user. You could set this to a limited number. You can set this to 5, 10, 20, 70, whatever you want. It's kind of up to you, but if you're the only one that's going to be using it, you, your family, your friends, or your business, you may want to leave it at 0, and then you can come in and change it if you need to. The total quota. So again, part of the quota information, just read about it. It tells you exactly what it's for. It's nothing we need to set right now. So the max BPS, again, nothing we need to set. We're going to keep going down. No UDP, no TCP, no TLS. We're going to leave all those commented out. Again, relays commented out. So static noise, max allocate lifetime, all of these things we don't need to mess with unless you know exactly what you're doing and you have a reason to change them. There's really nothing you need to do on these sections. So you'll scroll all the way down and you'll eventually see syslog. It's uncommented. That's fine. Just leave it as it is. As we keep going, you're going to see a few other things down here. All about logging. So the alternate server stuff, again, unless you're running multiple servers for this stuff, you don't need to set up any of these things. Just keep going. If you wanted this to only be a stun server, you could uncomment this and it would only be a stun server. A stun server and a turn server are slightly different, but most likely you want a turn server, so I'd say don't uncomment this, just keep going. If you don't want stun at all, you could uncomment this one that says no stun. It's very much up to you kind of how you set this and how you do it. I just left everything commented out for the most part. Allow loopback peers, again, no multicast peers, max allocate. All these things are things that you really need to understand what it means and what it's doing before you try to turn them on and use them. And otherwise, I would say leave them commented out unless you know what you're doing and you know why you want to turn that on. There's a section down here about web admin. You could turn on web admin if you want to do this, and it says enable web admin support on HTTPS. By default, it is disabled. If it is enabled, it also enables an HTTP, a simple static banner page. So be aware of that, with a small reminder that the admin page is available only on HTTPS. So it'll remind you of that. You have to put in what IP or what address you expect to reach that address at. I would say if you're not running this in a way that you can access it over like a WireGuard tunnel or something like that, I would probably not turn this on. I would just go ahead and not enable it. That's just me personally. I might do it later just to play with it, but for this part, we're going to basically set it and it's going to be ready to go. You don't need to do anything for the web admin. Once you've set those few things that we talked about, the rest of this, like I said, you can leave it commented out. We're going to use Control-O to save our changes. We're going to use Control-X to exit out. Now we're going to restart our server. So we're going to do sudo systemctl restart, and we're going to put Coturn. It's going to restart, and then we can just check our status. So sudo systemctl status Coturn. And again, it should tell us it's active, and it's going to tell us, hey, I'm reading from this file right here. So everything should be running. It should be good to go. And we can actually go and give it a try. So we're going to set it up inside of the Matrix server and see how it runs. So we're going to need that username, and we're going to need that shared secret that we saved. So you'll want to go back in. So we're going to go back into the system file here and right here. And we're just going to go down. And if you do Control W and nano, you can search. And I would do use auth. That's going to jump you right down here pretty close. Here's the use auth secret. And we want to get the actual secret that we created, which is called static auth secret. So if you want to look for static auth, that would probably jump you right to it. But you'll just want to highlight that guy, and then you can right click and copy, or you can do Control-Shift-C. It's very much, again, up to you. Just do Control-X to exit back out of that, and you should be set. You've got that copied. So we're going to go over to our Matrix server, and I'm going to log into that guy. Alright, so I've logged into my Matrix server. Again, I'm going to make this full screen just to make it easier. And I'm here at the Docker Matrix config folder, and I'm just going to go into the dendrite.yaml. So I'm just going to do nano and then dendrite.yaml. Now down here is information about how to set up your Turn server. So again, using the Control W and nano, you can search by doing Turn. Just press enter. Once you find that section, so you're going to see this Turn server information section. Now it may look a little bit different from mine. It just depends on which version of the config you end up with, but it should just install the config automatically when you run the Coturn installer. So we're going to jump down here. So after using the search, you should be at the Turn section, and you'll see this Turn section here. Now yours may look a little different here. There's just different ways that they show this, but no worries about it. What we're going to do is uncomment this part right here, and this one here, and this one here. Now if you set up the username and password, you would uncomment these two lines here and then put in your username in between the quotes and your password between the quotes. But in our case, we're going to put our shared secret into this box right here. So we can just do Control Shift and V like Victor. Oops, there we go. And we'll paste it right in there. So we need to change this part, so we uncomment it. We need to change this to our actual domain that we set up, the URL. So this is myturn.fixitdelrio.com. And the same thing here. So you're just going to copy that same exact phrase, or that same thing, myturn.fixit.com. There we go. Everything should be set. Good. Make sure you've got everything spelled correctly, and then hit Control O. I typed .com twice right here. See? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Control O to save and Control X to exit. So now our Turn server is set up. We need to restart our Matrix service. So since we're running it in Docker from last week, we're going to do Docker restart the Matrix monolith 1. We're just going to give it time to restart, and we can bring up our Matrix element system here, and this should be using that. I'm just going to real quick, just to make sure it gets the settings. It probably should have. Let me just quit it, and we'll restart it here just to be positive. All right, I'm crazy, so I didn't set up a separate user I was trying to call myself. So we're going to do this again. All right, I'm going to make a phone call here, and I'm logged in as another user on my system, so I'm logged in actually as Karina, and I have myself set up on my phone. So now I can answer the call. Alright, so now I have a call going and it's echoing in my ears on the headphones. I don't know if you hear it, but I'm talking into the phone. And then if I put my phone up to my other ear, I should be able to hear my voice coming through there as well, which I do, and it's almost in real time. There's very little lag, so that's very nice. So I can end the call when I'm finished from either the computer or the phone. So I'll end it from the phone. And now I can actually call in from the phone as well. And you can see that it's ringing, so I can answer. And again, we've got a call going. It's very simple. It's not hard to do anything like this. So Element says I've got a new message, but really it's a new call. And again, I can end the call. So very straightforward to do this once we've got it set up. The next thing you might be interested in is the video. Alright, so you can see I've made a few test calls here. I wanted to make sure everything was set up correctly, and it was because I was logged in as myself here and on my phone, so I was trying to basically call myself, which just doesn't work. But I did set it up so that I've got another user here, so I'm logged in as a different user with the K, and I've got it set up here, and you can see that I've got my user logged in on the phone. And it's ringing in my earbuds, it's ringing on my phone, which you can't see, but I'll answer it. And now we have a call going, and I should have audio going, everything like that. Let's see, I can mute and unmute, and yes, I can end the call from the phone end if I want to. That's fine. I can also start the call from the phone side, so you can see what it looks like coming in over here, and I can just click on answer. And again, I've got a phone call going, and I've got audio coming into my headphones so I can hear it, and there's very little lag. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, so I like that. And then of course I can end the call from either side, and you can mute, so that just like anything else, you can mute things, and then you can unmute, and then you've got some other options here, and then you can hang up. So I've hung up the call. So now I'm going to start a video call from the phone side. So the phone video starts up, and I see the call coming in, and of course with my camera hooked up, it comes in. So I'm going to show you what the phone looks like. It's very small down here. Don't know if I can enlarge that or not. If I stretch it out, it gets a little bit bigger. Let me turn the phone this way and try to line it up. But you can see on my phone I'm getting a video also, so you're basically looking at yourselves. There you go. Yeah, so this is what I see when I'm giving you guys a video, and this is just how it works whenever you're trying to do something with Element, so you can see exactly what's happening. So I'm just going to end this call. We could again end it from either side, and I can do the video call from the computer side as well. And it rings on the phone, which I wish I could show you, but it stops the recording every time I do it. But once I answer, it will bring up the video again, just like before, and again I can turn the camera so that we get everything like we expect. But there you go, setting up your own Coturn server, using it with Matrix or Nextcloud or Jitsi Meet or just tons of other software out there makes it really awesome to be able to make voice and video calls, have control over that server, have control over who's being able to use that server, and make sure that you have a really great experience. So using something like DigitalOcean with a really fast VPS helps that a ton. You might want to use Linode, you might want to use Vultr, you might want to use Hertzner, you might want to use Zaro. It's really up to you which one you try out, but try something geographically close to you and give this a shot and get your own messaging going, and then federate so that we can talk to each other and have chats with each other. You can find me on these servers as well, so I will log out and log back in to let you see where I'm at. So this is me. I am Brian, and I am at brian:matrix.routemehome.org. If you want to reach out to me on Matrix, that's awesome. You just need to make sure you're on a federated Matrix client. I hope you get yours up and running. Let me know that you did by reaching out and sending me a message. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I hope this helped you. If it did, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the open source journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time. It's your open source advocate, and I'm back, and I've set up a store with a little bit of merchandise. I love being your open source advocate, but I want you guys to be the open source advocates with me. So if you want to, get out there and get some of this stuff. And if you do, let me know what you think of it. Thank you for subscribing.